Right, we're live. Just wait for
Are
the
we?
first people to turn up, yeah, and then we can go from there. I'm trying to remember how I put people's comments up. There was a way. Nikhil showed me, and I can't remember. Fam.
Oh,
I'll have to
how to put it up on the screen.
Yeah. Right, if you click on that YouTube thing that I just put up, just click on it and just see if click on it and see if it takes you to this just from your screen. Where's my phone? See if I can do it my end.
Yeah, it does. It does.
All right, wicked.
Cool.
Oh, we just got a new patron.
Oh, Matt. Have we got anyone in yet?
Nah. Or if they are, they're not talking to me. In fact, no, there's 2 people, but that might be us. Whichever 6 people. Okay, so guys, we've just been chatting amongst ourselves for the last minute. We haven't even started this properly. You have to reveal yourselves.
Drop a comment.
You have to reveal yourselves with comments for us to even know who's there, because we haven't done this in so long that I've actually forgotten how I even see. I've forgotten how I even do this again. But anyways, for those who are watching, 8 of you now. I wish I could tell who's actually in the chat. The 8 of you who have joined in so far, welcome. It's what, 50 minutes till we have the first ball. If it isn't a rain delay, 50 minutes till we have the first ball of the first day. Wyndham is in the house. That's what we want to see. We want to see people comment so that we know who's actually live and with us. You can sneak watch, but the whole point of Rumshot Diaries is to put comments. Chris Lim, big up Chris Lim, big up the cricket.
I feel like you're trolling me.
Everybody is joining in. Welcome back to Rumshot Diaries. It's a brand new series.
Brand new series, same old one. Brand new series, same old one.
I got my Ray and nephew as well. I don't know what to do with this Ray and nephew. It could lick off my face if I really try to get into it. But we move.
Let's get into it though, Mash. West Indies test match. Would you bat or bowl first? So
everyone's been talking about that wicket and how it looks super green. I'm always skeptical of wickets like that, which look super green, because I always assume that they're going to be like really flat decks and they're just there to trick us. I think in the England tour, Holder got loads of stick for choosing to bowl, and I think we tried to defend him, and we were like, but that's West Indies' strength. Of course, West Indies should bowl first. And we lost the last 2 test matches because we didn't take the initiative and we didn't try to bat. If that pitch is genuinely green, we have to bowl.
Yeah, agreed.
And as here we go. As Jatil says, sorry, I just hit that. But as Jatil says, if it comes up, I don't know if you can see it, Santoki. So I'm just getting to grips with this all again. Holder is going to bowl first anyways. Jatil, I'd like to think that he's learned his lesson and that we've got Darren Bravo in the side. I'm assuming Darren will bat at 3 today and he's back in the side. But I think everybody who studies New Zealand cricket says first innings scores is what wins you a test match in New Zealand. So I don't know, man. It's a difficult one. Chris Lynn, you're saying Jason looks up, sees clouds, then bowls. Pitch doesn't matter. That's a good point. That's a good point, though. That's what he did in England. And tried to take advantage and then lost the initiative as a result. But I think people just have to remember the context. West Indies struggle to bat. Darren Bravo's just one batsman. We won't suddenly have learnt to bat just because Darren Bravo's in the side. So are you not trying to say that we must bat first regardless, even though it's a clear weakness? Santok, you haven't even given your answer.
I would bowl first, to be honest. batting is not gonna. I mean, even if regardless of what we do, batting is going to be a trouble. But I would bowl first. It's our strength. Gabriel and Roach, fresh Roach. They could cause damage on those pitches. So I would bowl first if I was holder. So let's hope we win the toss.
Indeed. Chatil, we're just going to go through comments this one. More matches have been won by teams bowling first, though, in New Zealand in recent years, which suits holder. Fair dues. Let's talk about, I mean, we've just, Santoki's just uploaded our prediction piece, but let's talk about the team. I think the team writes itself. I just think it's for me, I don't know, because my team is slightly different. Bravo comes in for Hope. Everyone's cussing from
Campbell. So we have Campbell and Brathwaite opening for sure. Bravo in at 3.
Yeah.
Brooks in at 4.
Yep.
Chase in at 5.
Yep.
Now, this is the thing. This is the interesting thing. Do you think they could spring a surprise? Hetmeyer in for Blackwood?
No way. What? No way.
You know what? So I was reading that ESPN predicted for the test, and they put Blackwood / Hetmeyer. It got me thinking. Do you think that's a realistic option for the West Indies at the moment?
Blackwood was top run scorer in England. There is absolutely no way that you drop. Absolutely no way you drop Blackwood. No. Hetmeyer
no way
matches again unless somebody's injured.
I think anyone thinking Blackwood or Hetmeyer is a possibility are just looking at the fact that they're both attacking batsmen rather than recent form in the Red Bull game.
Crickinvolt actually put that. That's mad to me. I would be surprised to see Hetmeyer play Test match cricket for West Indies for a long time. But I actually think the bigger talking point for me is whether Chamar Holder will play. I actually can foresee a situation that Alzari Joseph doesn't play. I think, granted, he only played the 2 Test matches in England, but he was below par. And I think he took 3 wickets in one of the warm-up matches. If Chamar is looking good in the nets, I wouldn't be surprised to see Chamar play.
The pitches will suit him. It's a great place to make your debut.
I think Dave's saying here that Blackwood has brought himself a good few series because of England. Yeah, Blackwood ain't getting dropped. Blackwood could average 6 across these 2 Test matches, and he's still playing in Bangladesh. So Blackwood ain't getting dropped for a while.
Go to the next comment from Chatil. Chatil must be Guyanese, you know. Hetmeyer could open instead of Campbell. I mean, he'll probably do better than Campbell if he opens, but I don't think he'd be a long-term option.
So I was on the press conference with Roger Harper, and one of the Caribbean journalists put to him the idea of would he ever consider Hetmeyer opening, and was like, no, that's not in our thoughts whatsoever. So yeah, he's like, Hetmeyer's been selected as a middle order batsman. He's not. We're not thinking unless Guyana decide to try him out in first class cricket sustained period there, he's not going to open. I think it's worth trying in terms of seeing if he's suitable for the role, but I don't think that's going to be happening.
Well, I guess that's the problem because Hetmeyer's obviously valued on the T20 circuit. He basically doesn't play for Guyana first class really. So there's no way to kind of 1, get Red Bull experience, and 2, prove yourself in different positions for the format. So it's a tricky one really, trying to balance all formats.
Yeah, most definitely. Dave, I know you're there. I'm trying to send you the invite. I'm just going to send you the link now, Dave, so you can get on it. And anybody else who's interested, who wants to jump on, you just got to indicate, and then I'll try and send you an invite so you can get on board and jump on, give your views, etc. Santoki, you might just need to fill a bit of air here whilst I. If I had Santoki, talk about the Patreon whilst I'm doing this.
Oh yeah. Well, I think most of the people commenting so far would have subscribed already. But if you haven't, we've set up a Patreon page. Obviously it's because me and Michelle have basically kept this running ourselves, self-funded it. So we would like some support actually. So we set up a Patreon page. It's got different tiers: £2, £5, £10, £20. You get various different access levels with each tier. So if you go to www.patreon.com/caribcricket, you'll find out more information, and anything you can contribute would be massively appreciated, just to keep us going, essentially, keep our production going, and hopefully allow us to develop this community of revolving around West Indian cricket.
Yeah, and sorry, so before I continue on that, Dave, I've just forwarded you the email that I sent to Santolki, so scroll down and you'll find the link there. I couldn't even navigate what I was doing, so I forwarded you that email, find the link.
You know what, we've exposed ourselves as Nikhil being the mastermind for all our technology before, because we're just stumbling.
No idea what's going on online. But yeah, just further, just to what Santolki was saying about the Patreon. It was a difficult decision, to be honest. So I don't want any of you who are on here to be thinking, oh, look at these guys just trying to grab some money. We had actually discussed it much, much earlier in the year. And both Santolki and myself were like, who's really going to contribute anyway? What's the point? And we shelved the idea. But then, to be honest, I think we just got to a point where we just thought, we're putting content out through Substack, and loads of you are contributing to that, and really appreciate it. I know Carter Kaya's on here, Dave's on there, long-time contributors. And we were like, people are contributing. They're putting out really good views on West Indies cricket. We can't afford to pay them because we're just trying to self-fund the thing even existing in the first place. The Twitter page is a hive of activity. Rumshot Diaries had jokes and laughs during the England series, but even StreamYard requires some subscription fees for that. Putting out the pod requires subscription fees, paying people to edit the pod. And there was just, I'm not saying we couldn't afford it, but you kind of just get to that critical mass where you're like, are we putting too much of our own money into this to keep it going? How long can we justify it? So we just thought, let's just see. So that's just the reason. We didn't want anyone to think, just give us money for the sake of giving us money. Ultimately, the long-term goal is to be able to pay people who are actually contributing to the sites and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, Chris, I see your point. So going to your point, which I've had up on the screen. Yeah, Chamar outbowled Alzari. Alzari is the incumbent, but there's just a niggling feeling I've got that he might get dumped. Oh, Dave's here. Oh, one sec. Dave, let me bring him in.
Dave, has he got West Indies kit on?
Do you know what?
The test at the top, yeah.
What's so interesting about anybody that we speak to via Caribbean Cricket? For anyone who's watching, we've never even seen. We don't even know what Dave looks like till this very moment. This very moment right
what
now.
What a treat for you!
I thought it was Lockie Ferguson popping up on our screen there for a minute.
Turn to your right for a sec. I want to see if it is the actual full, indeed, West Indies sweater.
I didn't realise I was so out of. There we go. That's better.
So, did you get that off the Castor Sportswear?
Yeah, cashed in when they went on the site. I thought, I'm not missing out on that. So yeah, good. It's really coming in handy now with the chilly weather up in Scotland, as you can probably hear from the accent.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. So tell me something, Dave. How does a Scotsman come to be wearing a West Indies? Can't be wearing a West Indies sweater.
Really grabbing at straws with this one, yeah. I guess, I mean, coming from Scotland, I suppose you don't naturally have a cricket team. So, 2000, I guess, Courtney Walsh and, oh my goodness, the last series for Courtney and...
Kirtley,
sorry.
Yeah,
last series for Courtney and Kirtley. Was kind of my first intro to kind of test cricket. So I was about 10, 11. And Channel 4 in the UK, we didn't have Sky at the time. So I was sort of fascinated by those guys. And ever since then, I've kind of taken on the Windies as my sort of proxy team. So yeah, that's kind of how it's happened. Girlfriend's granddad's Jamaican as well. So that sort of adds to it as well. So he's quite glad to see me getting on the Windies bandwagon, I guess.
How old is he? Is he 60 plus?
Yeah. So came over 40s, 50s. Yeah. So 50s. Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason I say that is because what Santoki and myself found is that there is a massive disconnect between the Caribbean generation who are 60s and over, huge West Indies fans, and it's part of the DNA.
Yeah.
And then there's a massive disconnect between them and the next generation who basically have just given up. So either didn't embrace it or just gave up. So that's why I always say that Santoki and I are the last of a dying breed of people of Caribbean descent and actually like the West Indies.
Yeah, I mean that kind of makes sense, I guess. But yeah, he's dead into his cricket. West Indies all the way. Not even England as the second team, so he doesn't sort of swing for the English team at all. So yeah, died in the real Windies man.
Well, let's jump in some questions. So or some comments. Kartikeya also agrees. He says, "I'd play Chamar. If it's that same green pitch, there's no room for those one or two loose Alzari spells." And yeah, that's my issue. I think Alzari bowls too many loose spells. And it's difficult for Alzari. He's had injuries. He's kind of been in and out. But I was just worried with some of the stuff I saw in England. He's at an age now. He's still young, super young. He's still 23. But he's at an age now where he's had enough exposure in international cricket to not be loose or not be loose regularly. So I don't know. Do you think he'll get dropped, Santoki?
I don't think he'll get dropped. I think they'll go with him. I mean, the selection-wise, they tend to be quite conservative. Simmons, he's quite conservative because if you remember the England series, we were saying Bonner's going to come in, Shamar Holder, and in the end, he only made one change across those 3 tests. So I think he'll give Alzari the benefit of the doubt. In regards to Alzari's form, I think it's hard as well for him. Similar to Hetmeyer, balancing different formats has been tough for him, especially since he had an injury in the IPL, and he's found it hard to recover from that. So I think he's someone who just needs to focus on one format at the moment.
Dave, Alzari or Chamar?
I would go Alzari, and I think they will go Alzari. I was actually surprised that Chamar didn't play that last test. I know it was sort of 1-1 in the series in England. I was surprised that they didn't play him at some point, because the talk leading up to that series had really been about Chamar. So I was fairly surprised that he didn't play at all. And Alzari didn't particularly do anything really to put a big marker down to keep his place. I suppose the difficulty is there's been no red ball cricket for these guys since that England tour, so there's nothing really to base a change on other than the warm-up games. If they're going by warm-up games, then it's Chamar, but I don't think they'll place all that much emphasis on the warm-up games.
I think that's fair enough. Go on, sorry.
I think that's the advantage. Obviously, New Zealand haven't played Test cricket since the lockdown, but they've had about 4 rounds of domestic cricket. So all their guys are looking in form, which is going to be a big difference, I think.
Chatil, do you think they should play Cornwall in this test, since the venue historically is known for being flat and for the amount of left-handers in the New Zealand side? I've just ignored Rakeem Cornwall, because I've just assumed that a spinner isn't playing. And even if it's spin, this is where the advantage of Roston Chase does come in. Roston's bowling has improved tenfold. So, and this goes back to your point, Santoki, we're quite conservative as a side. Why would you? I like Rakeem, but why would you put him in when you know Roston can do a job?
Yeah. And going back to kind of what Dave said in terms of the warm-ups not reflecting much, if we were going by the warm-ups, Craig Brathwaite would be our main spinner.
Brathwaite. Yeah.
So I think go on.
Sorry. All I was going to say is I saw that the guy that's come in for New Zealand, the guy that's coming at the top of the order, Will Young, he made 100 odds in the warm-up game, and Brathwaite clean bowled him. So definitely get him on if Will Young's on.
Carrying on. I know there's some other comments, but Chris says the New Zealand coach says it's rare to not play a spinner at Hamilton, but that might be a psychological ploy. Like I say, I think let's use Moeen Ali as an example. I'm not saying Roston Chase is Moeen Ali, but the way we're using him
Similar.
He's being pushed as a frontline spinner. And I just think that when we go to Bangladesh, then I think you'll expect to see Raheem Cornwall play alongside Roston Chase. But I think they'll just ask Roston to just do a job, and I think it'll be very hard for Raheem to push for a place. I just wanted to go back to a comment here. I don't know if this guy is still online, but let me big him up all the same because I don't understand. No, Christoph, I don't know what's going on for you and why you need to shave your head clean, but big up Christoph anyway. Obviously, you're a big fan of what we do, so shave your head, show us the pictures, and yeah, you do you, Christoph. It's all good.
Christoph might have been looking for like a German football stream or something and just randomly stumbled into this. All right, let's hear the next comments.
Yeah, we haven't spoken about it because obviously this is prior to the test series, but just very quickly, I guess we should say something. The T20 series. Santoki, you and I predicted a 2-1 win for West Indies. I've kept very quiet. I've kept very quiet about it. Do you know what, though? We would have won that first T20 if Kesrick Williams hadn't bowled that match-losing over. And I think you tweeted it out, Santoki. Everyone focused on Chemo Paul's no balls over, but I think it was 2 overs before that Kesrick Williams had actually bowled the match-losing over anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was actually more angry with Kesrick than I was with Chemo because I knew the game was over at that point.
Yeah, exactly. It was fine margins. The first one was pretty close. The second one was abysmal, and obviously the third one was rained off. But I'm not going to get too disappointed about it in the wider context of things. I mean, it's not irrelevant, but I mean, it has little meaning going forward, especially with the World Cup being in India. But from Pollard's point of view, I can see why he led from the front, and a lot of his batsmen, Hetmeyer, Pooran, didn't perform at all. So he'll be angry with that and about the team's performances just because he expects that top level performances from the team, which he leads by. So I think it'll be disappointing for him, but nothing in terms of West Indies, in terms of World Cup chances, it doesn't indicate much. And obviously a lot of players missing as well. So Dave, what did you think about the T20 series?
Yeah, I kind of agree that there wasn't all that much of an emphasis on it. I don't think it's a fairly irrelevant. Just to be honest, I was kind of treating it as a little bit of a warm up to the test series in terms of getting some interest in the tour. The Lockie Ferguson spell in the first match was brilliant to watch, but I probably wouldn't take all that much out of the 2 games that did actually get played.
Yeah, I don't think enough was. You see, West Indies fans are we're so set to just cussing every time they lose. I'm rather sanguine about it when West Indies lose. I've seen so many defeats that it doesn't really impact me. But generally, West Indies fans have a meltdown anytime they lose. But I thought there wasn't enough said about Lockie Ferguson's spell would have got rid of a lot of batsmen. And I think sometimes you can focus on the fact that a side lost and not actually look at what the other side was doing. It was hostile from Lockie. The only person I'm looking at, I think Hetmeyer's dismissal was insane, charging down the wicket, trying to hoik Lockie out of the ground. But other than that, I was like, actually, some of those deliveries were relatively unplayable. What are you going to do about it? But yeah.
But this sort of puts into context Pollard's performance, because if you think about it, Hetmeyer, Pooran, and Fabian Allen, up until Thursday night, they were locked in a hotel room. They come out Friday morning and they've got to face up to Lockie Ferguson. So you can't really expect much with 1 day out of quarantine for them to do much. It was an exception that Pollard did manage to perform, but I do feel like at least a practice match before the series would have at least helped, because you're kind of setting them up to fail in that regards. Obviously, Lockie Ferguson was in quarantine, but he's used to those conditions. He can kind of adapt to it easier. So I feel it was a bit harsh on the West Indian middle order to kind of face that kind of situation.
I mean, Chatil, I've put your comment up, expose the holes in the bowling. Again, I think both Santoki and myself spoke about on the podcast we did prior to the series, we said the bowling's an issue. But I think, again, you have to remember context. The following people weren't there. Simmons, Lewis, Gale, Narine, Bravo, Holder, Dre Russ. So you're basically saying 7 players who pretty much would slot into that side somewhere. So I think people just have to step back a bit and be like, 1, it's in New Zealand, the World Cup's in India. 2, 7 certain starters weren't even there. I think we can let this one go.
You know what, though? You know what? Even though we're saying it was virtually meaningless, what do we think about Brandon King? Do you think those performances were enough to see him dropped from the team?
Do you know what I think about that one?
Oh, my God. I'm signing off.
Wait a minute, do you know what I think about that one? Listen.
The thing is, David wants to say something, but he can't because of the family link. So he's just keeping silent on that one. But
no, don't get me involved in the island politics, please.
I don't even know why Santoki's chatting. Ever since Guyana hit 55 in the CPL, right, everything that you've got to say has been rendered obsolete. But yeah, no. On a serious note, I think Brandon's finished. But do you know what, Santoki? And you and I haven't even discussed this. That's no bad thing for Brandon because think about when we interviewed him for the podcast plug. But I get the feeling he wants to focus on Red Bull. That kind of season he had with the Amazon Warriors in 2019, you track that against his career in white ball, and that's like an exception to the rule. But you track his Red Bull career, and there's consistency there. So I actually think it's a blessing in disguise that he's had failures in the white ball squad and can now go and focus on Red Bull again.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when we spoke to him on the podcast, it was kind of like almost as if he was just reluctantly thrown into T20s. It's kind of like, oh, it happened, I'll just roll with it. But he always said his passion was Red Bull cricket. That was the pinnacle for him. So you could say one format's loss is another's gain because I think he will be invaluable to West Indies going forward. And we'll see him hopefully today in A match playing against New Zealand A. So we can see what he can do in the 4 days. Kevin?
I brought up Kevin. So Kevin and I have known each other for what is it, Kev? Like 20 years. So Kevin lives in New Zealand. So that one, I'm just bringing him up because he's a close mate of mine. But Kev, I've brought you up because I'm going to wait for you to comment and I'm going to bring you back in again. Talk to me about Devon Conway. Talk to me about what we should expect in terms of decks and from just obviously you're an Englishman, but you've lived in New Zealand now for a long while. Just talk to me about if we should have any hope that West Indies can even compete with New Zealand. So I'll bring you back in, Kev, when you've commented.
And just an update as well. They have.
Sorry.
Go on, David.
Sorry, no, I was going to say it's one big loss for New Zealand that it's not been touched on all that much is BJ Watling. That was the one that kind of had stuck out to me. I think he averages about 40 at home, batting at 6. Made a massive double ton against England last year. I think that's a big plus for the West Indies. You don't want to focus too much on the opposition, and you want to sort of be sure of your own strengths, but that can only be a good thing. Certainly weakens them.
Yeah. But then on the other hand, they have brought in Devon Conway, who's the supposed run machine on the domestic circuit. So
I just think New Zealand quantity.
Yeah, and New Zealand's batting is just it's understated how good it is. Like they can just anyone in that top 6 can get a century. So I think West Indies are going to have their bowling cut out. Whereas obviously in the England series, England's batting was erratic as well. So it kind of played into our hands. Whereas New Zealand are confident they know what they're doing. So it'd be an interesting battle either way. Mashal, your favourite topic, Andre Russell and the Lanka Premier League.
Yeah, this is a weird one.
The Premier T20 tournament at the moment.
So this is a weird one because we're supposed to be doing this as a warm up to the Test matches, but I have to touch on some West Indies topics all the same. Which pod was it? If that was the last podcast, not the Darren Bravo one. Plug Darren Bravo pod is out today. By the way, I never listened back to the pods after we've actually recorded them, so I don't even know what it sounds like. but anybody else, go listen to the Darren Bravo podcast. We interviewed him yesterday. We've turned it around for today. So at any point during the day, go listen to him. He was Santoki. Before I answer the Russell question, he was super honest in that podcast.
Yeah,
he didn't
super crazy, huh?
So if Darren is playing today, which we expect, and you're kind of just listening to a test match, but you want something on in the background, it's a really good listen to hear an honest conversation with a current member of the. And he accepts, I think, that he has wasted some time in his career, lost 2.5 years of his career when he's the best batsman in the region that is currently available in the side. So go listen to that. But that's an aside. Back to Russell. God. Santoki, on previous episodes, I have cussed about Andre Russell bowling. He doesn't have any knees. So what is it? I think when we've had Taz on previous episodes, I think Taz has said to us that she believes that Dre Russ is so competitive that no one can tell him, like, look at what he did in the World Cup. Remember at the start of the World Cup, you were at were you at the Pakistan game, Santoki?
Yeah, I was at the Pakistan game.
Bowled. If I remember rightly, Russell came on and bowled 8 overs in that Pakistan game. He came into that tournament on an injury. We picked him primarily to bat. And then in the first game, he bowled about 8, maybe even, he might have even bowled his full quota of 10, and then basically couldn't make it for the World Cup after doing that. I cannot understand when Dre Russ can bat as well as he can, he doesn't need to bowl anymore. What the hell is he bowling in a tournament like that for? And he took 3 for 18.
And that was coming off the back of, what did he hit, 65 of 19 or something ridiculous like that as well. So I mean, you can say the Lanka Premier League might not have the same quality as other leagues around the world, but still some feat. And it was Mohamed Amir bowling 2 of those overs as well. So it was a recognised bowler. 65 of 19, then taking 3 wickets, shows his all-round capabilities. But you do have to question, if he's saying he doesn't want to play for West Indies to take a mental break, and then he's going and batting and bowling in the Lanka Premier League, you do have to question kind of what is his thinking, or is he just trying to monetize himself as much as possible in these years, knowing that he's not possibly going to have a long career because of his injuries?
Yeah, I mean, the ultimately, as you said on the last pod, Santoki, he's going to the World Cup regardless. As long as he can walk, he's going to the World Cup. He could not play for the West Indies in every T20 game between now and the World Cup, and he's still going to the World Cup. So ultimately, he can do what he wants. Kartikeya says he doesn't think Conway's going to play. He's come in late as a backup player, so Young to open and Blundell in the middle.
It's been confirmed there will be a delayed start because they haven't gone ahead with the toss. So
if that's the case, then I go to this comment. So Kev, my guy in New Zealand, Hamilton's a good batting deck if you get in. But if you lose the toss in rainy conditions, 56 for 7. Listen, West Indies don't even need it to rain to be 56 for 7. So we better, whatever happens, we need to win the toss, basically.
Yeah.
First test in an away series, you need to win the toss if you're the away side. That's the way I see it. And we can worry about what Holder calls after that. I'm a bit concerned. What delay does it say, Santoki? You haven't even checked.
It hasn't given a time frame, just delayed because it's still raining.
See, my plan was to watch the first session and then pass out.
Yeah.
But if it's a delayed start, watch me pass out before the first session. Pass out before the first session has even begun.
David, what's your plans? How long are you going to go into it?
I was just going to see how long I could go before I dropped. So that could be 3 or 4, or it could be 11. Yeah. So I mean, I'm off work at the moment, so that's fine.
That works, yeah.
I've got a story to tell about this actually. On the I think, was it the last tour of New Zealand? I need to go back. I think it was the last. It was either 2015 if we toured in 2015, or maybe the one after that. But I stayed up for one of the test matches, and I stayed up all the way through the night, so like 10 o'clock through to 6 in the morning. Obviously, West Indies lost a test match, and I was so emotional. You know, when you're tired, you know, when you're so tired, your eyes are burning and you're just emotional. And I was so emotional that after West Indies, this is a true story, after West Indies lost, but I didn't go to bed. I stayed up and wrote an email to Cricket West Indies. I wrote an email to Cricket West Indies, and I've got to find this and show you. And basically, it was like 2 pages long, and at the end, I was like, "I'm done with you lot."
You're on the West Indies blacklist. Oh, that's brilliant.
But that's why I don't advocate anybody staying up through the night.
That's got to be a low point. Mashal sitting in a dark room sending a passive aggressive email to Cricket West Indies at 6 in the morning.
I went properly in as well. I was like, I've been following you lot since I was 14 years old, but this is it now. I've had enough.
Good. All right, should we find? We got quite a few comments. Should we get through them?
Yeah.
See what everyone's saying.
Let me see. So we had Kev. Obviously, Kev said that Conway's been the lead run scorer in the last 2 years. Here we go. So Kev's saying that Conway will help reduce the pain when Taylor retires. Yeah, I agree with that last part. Irrespective of flat decks, that's how I feel about New Zealand's bowling as well.
Yeah,
I think after England, I was like, going to New Zealand for me was like going out of the fire into what fire is the same fire into the frying pan or whatever it was. I just think that if there is a hint of swing and Bolt and Saudi are on form, I think we lose our top order very quickly.
The thing with similar to England, I guess there's no sort of respite for the batsmen because you've got Bolt, Salvi, Wagner, and then you've got Jameson as well, who's just coming in and looks really good. So if all 4 of them play, it's going to be very, very tough for the batsmen to kind of get through them all. But we'll see how it goes.
Update: Conway is not selected. I haven't seen the team, so are the teams out?
Let me check.
Anyone who's seen the teams, maybe post them. I don't know what West Indies are saying about their side. I think it says Sabina, but I think this is Asif. So he's got his KA pineapple drinks for the night.
Yeah, it's a good shout.
Who's this? Blade. Oh yeah, good question actually. I've been wondering about this one. Do any of you two want to take this one?
Yeah, I think we saw him struggle actually, ducking out of the way in England with the short ball. So yeah, to be honest, Wagner's one of the best in the world, especially because he just focuses on Test cricket. So I'm not worried just about Dawich. I'm worried about all our batsmen. So Dawich would come under that, as well as Dawich has performed in the last 2 years. It's going to be tough, especially as they know his weakness and they'll definitely target that. So, David, what do you think?
Yeah, agreed. I think Wagner had Steve Smith and Matt Wade from Australia jumping all over the place last winter. I know the pitches are different in Australia; they're a lot harder, but yeah, he'll do the same. And Jameson as well, absolutely destroyed India with a short ball last year. He's a big, tall guy. He gets bounce off the wicket, regardless of how the wicket actually is. He's going to get sort of short balls and bouncing high. So yeah, Dowrich, but I agree with you, not just Dowrich, the rest of the top order as well.
Yeah, I mean, my first main concern is John Campbell surviving more than 3 or 4 overs. That would be a plus. But yeah, it's going to be tough. And as David referenced there, don't forget that earlier this year, New Zealand demolished India, #1 Test side. Was it 2-0 in the Test? So no team in the world can go to New Zealand and be comfortable. So West Indies aren't going to be any different. But it's even worse for West Indies because we know they are fragile batting wise.
Yeah, I'm not. Nikhil's not on this one, and he'd call me a pessimist, but I'm going to say it all the same. All I want to see is West Indies compete. So you see, when West Indies lost to England, I wasn't disappointed because we'd won a Test match. And I know that some people's attitude will be like, no, but we should have won or drawn the second or whatever it was. I always say, look at context and history. And And it's kind of what I was getting at with that piece that I dropped for the Cricketer today, plug. But the point being that why would we suddenly expect the West Indies to be good when the history doesn't suggest that? And I'm not talking distant history, I'm talking near history. We haven't won a test match in New Zealand in
21 years.
25 years.
5 years. Not one test match. Why do you think this side, why would any sane person look at this side and go, yeah, they can win this series? Like that, it just doesn't make any sense. So yes, they can compete, but I think it's a very tall ask to expect them to they're not winning any series for certain. The best they can hope for is that they do similar to England, that they catch New Zealand on the hop in the first test. If they that would be the best they can hope for, and then New Zealand would just come back in the second one and smash them.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, I'll go for a competitive 1-0 defeat.
New Zealand are unbeaten in something like 6 series as well at home.
Yeah,
I mean they've got an unreal record at home. To me, it's probably a harder place to go at the moment than England. So I was more optimistic ahead of the England series. Not wanting to turn people off from watching, but you know, it's realistic.
Ravi, solidarity. He understands. BCBC, Ravi understands. He's been there. He's felt the exact same thing.
Ravi actually wrote a physical letter with a pen and went out and posted it.
Listen, I know this pain. I know what you have to go through to get to that stage.
Actually, go on. If you go to Ravi's comment at 9:36, the Darren Bravo one, that's a good one. Let's talk about Bravo, man.
I must have missed that one. 1 second.
Bit positive. 9:36.
Good one. So will this? Where is it? Has it come up?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Will this series be the Ballad of Darren Bravo? We've been waiting for him to launch for some time. Yeah, go on, take that one.
I think as we said to him on the podcast yesterday, he averages 50 or something overseas. Obviously his highest score, 218, was in New Zealand. The warm-up matches, 135.93. All the ingredients are there to perform. And I think he's going to be the top 1 scorer, whichever way you look at it, just because of the experience. However, obviously you can say maybe the pressure. There's a lot more pressure on him as a senior batsman, and with that history behind him in New Zealand, which could go against him. But I think this is where, if any batsman's going to stand out, it has to be Darren Bravo, surely, on this tour. David?
Yeah, agreed. I like the partnerships as well. So I think he said on the pod, I had a quick listen while I was doing the dishes before coming on, that he likes batting with Brathwaite. So I like the partnership. I mean, I'm assuming John Campbell's out early. So I'm liking Brathwaite with Bravo with Brooks as well. Sorry, man. Sorry. Yeah, I agree, Sandoki. I'll just end it at that. But I like him batting with Brathwaite and Brooks.
Yeah, I think Bravo. I don't want to read too much into a conversation with Darren Bravo, and the warm up matches give some level of indication what he got. Can't remember what the 100 and so. I don't know what the 100 was in the first one, but he obviously then followed that with a 93. I think a lot from based on the cricket I've watched through my life, and actually maybe it's all sports. Lots of it is mental and about Darren. He's telling himself, "I'm back to make runs," and I actually think that's a major thing. He's not here to, and actually Santoki, when he admitted as well, I shouldn't have come back when he got called back to play in the England series, and he admitted that I was short of cricket. I should never have been on the test side. And then obviously they dropped him after India when he got the concussion as well. And he didn't say it, Santoki, but I think this was what he was getting at. So you remember when he was saying that the difference is when he debuted in the West Indies side, he could turn to Shiv, he could turn to Ronnie, he could turn to Chris Gale. I read between the lines, and basically that to me was him saying, "I'm now them."
Yeah,
he is the experienced player in this side. It should. I mean, technically, Craig Brathwaite is as well, but Craig is 28. Darren's 31. Darren is the last. Darren and Craig are the last two players in that side to have played when people like Shiv and Ronnie and Chris were still playing in the test side. So I think it's up to them to put the runs on the board and say, listen, we've done it at international level before, follow our lead.
Yeah.
So that's ultimately how I see it.
Yeah, because he was saying, like, if you're like a John Campbell or someone and you're coming into the West Indies side, you're looking around, who's getting runs? Where are you looking for inspiration from? Whereas obviously his debut test match, Chris Gale hit a triple century. He had Chanderpaul coming in after him. Like, it was a different era. So he obviously sees the onus on himself now, but it's going to be tough for him. As well as he's done in New Zealand, he hasn't played test cricket since last August. So a year and a bit without test cricket, and he hasn't played much red ball cricket this year, other than a bit of first class at the beginning of the year. So it's going to be tough for him. I don't want to put too much expectations on him that he's definitely going to hit a big score, but it would be nice.
This is on YouTube because I've been backing him with my Jamaican flag waving from the start. So I don't know why you two are going to bring down my guy John Campbell.
So this is an interesting question actually for both of you. All right, if Campbell goes out for under 10 in both innings, do you keep him for the second test, or would you just take a gamble at this point?
There's no other opener in the squad.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that he's basically guaranteed the whole series, and which I think is the right thing to do, by the way. And then if he doesn't produce, he knows that he deserves to get dropped.
So if he does get dropped, I'm hoping he puts up big scores. But if he does get dropped, Bangladesh, a tough place to go to. Who would you open with? Brathwaite and?
Well, that's why this A-team tour as well is the best thing West Indies have done in such a long time. I think I haven't read the piece that we've put up yet. I said that Shane Mosley was my one to watch in the A-team. He's obviously
Nikhil said it as well.
Did he say that as well? Obviously, Bayesian bias.
Come on.
But who did you put?
Pooran.
Yeah.
Listen, if Pooran scores more than a half century in this A team, he's playing the second test, man. He's getting dropped in. They're just waiting for him. They're just
No. Do you know what? Okay, I don't agree with that. But if Pooran scores anything more than 50, he's going to Bangladesh for the test series.
Yeah.
100%. Fast. All they're waiting for is, can you get a score over 50 in red ball cricket? Yeah? Right, you're in the squad. That's all they're waiting for.
Essentially. They know his caliber. It's basically, they just need validation because you can't put him in a test side without playing first class cricket. So these A games are validation. If he performs, you're in Bangladesh tour, most probably. Hopefully, Brandon King can perform well. As you said, Shane Mosley looks good as well. So Josh De Silva. So there's a few who could come up in those A games. They got 2 matches to prove themselves.
Well, what will be interesting with those A games? I wonder if that's got a delayed start actually, because that shouldn't. That's in Mount Maunganui, isn't it?
Look at man trying to pretend like he knows the geography of New Zealand. What are you doing? You said Mount Magoo as if it was like next to Lewisham or something, man.
Anyways, the point being, if that game goes ahead and hasn't got a delayed start, I'm just intrigued to know who's opening with Mosley. And if it's Josh Silver, then that tells you that those are the two. Whoever's opening, they are the two that they're lining up. It's between those two to line up to replace Campbell if he doesn't do well. Oh, sorry. No, that's not the one I wanted. I think it's this one I wanted. Chatil, I think you need to let it go. I think you need to let this go. Hetmeyer isn't getting into any West Indies test squad. I'm actually glad. I'm glad he's gonna. He needs to not play for a while. Similar to Darren Bravo, go to first class cricket, show you've got the temperament again, and find the hunger you need to get into the test squad. Hetmeyer averages 27 in Test cricket, and that's not his fault. Well, it is his fault. But what I mean is, like, he's young. Like, go play some first-class cricket.
I could see the Hetmeyer going down the same road as Shea Hope, where he was just kept in the team for ages based on potential, looking good, hitting big shots, but actually the results haven't quite been there. And he just gets kept in the team waiting for that big score, and his confidence is at a rock bottom before he actually comes out. So actually not going on the England tour could potentially be one of the best things that's happened to him.
Yeah, agreed.
The only disappointment for him will be that if he's not playing in this test and he's like 12th man or whatever, he'd be better served not being 12th man and then sending him down to wherever it is and saying go play those 18 games instead. Because what's the point in him walking? What's the point in him being a reserve for the 2 test matches? Yes, okay, there's concussion protocols and stuff, but if he doesn't play any minutes, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. Agreed.
So I'd rather see that, to be honest. So yeah, we might. What do you say, Santoki? Should we bring it to a close here?
Yeah. Have we got any more comments? It looks like there's not going to be no play before lunch, so could be a late one, Mash.
What's that? Midnight our time.
Yeah, midnight. Yeah.
I don't know if I can stay up till midnight just to start watching some cricket. You know. Oh god, I might do. It's the first day of the first test.
David, actually, since we're wrapping up, David, what is your prediction for the actual series? How do you think it's going to go?
I think a 2-0 defeat. I think the first test will be fairly tight. I think the second test will be pretty tough. I just can't see it, and that's no disgrace. It's no disgrace at all. I'm actually potentially more interested in the A-team stuff. I really want to see how some of these guys, Pooran, De Silva, Mosley, how some of these guys go. Jaden Seals as well.
I was actually going to say, I did say on Twitter, there's actually probably been more people asking, is the A game being shown in the actual test match? Because people are just interested to see. We've talked a lot. I mean, on this podcast, we've hyped these guys up a lot. So now it's finally time to see a lot of them in action for the first time in a Red Bull game. So it'll be very interesting.
What, David, I'm going to throw this out there. West Indies are supposed to be touring the Netherlands next year. That was, I think it was originally part of like the ODI Super League. Is that correct, Santoki? I think that's before. Yeah. So the first chance you'll ever get to meet us face to face is Santoki and I are planning to go across to the Netherlands for that game. So put that in your diary, David, and come across.
Wait, hold on. Oh, this is just, you've just triggered my memory, David. What made you keep on supporting West Indies after the World Cup qualifying?
that was brutal. That was absolutely brutal.
When that happened, did you not feel some sort of sympathy for your Scottish brothers?
I did, but I laid the blame more at the ICC and the fact that you could have West Indies and Scotland there. A World Cup without West Indies would have been ridiculous. Scotland deserved to be there, so we needed them both there. That would have been the ideal.
Do you know what, though, David? And this might shock you. I was upset about that rain victory against Scotland because I wanted us to lose. And the reason
I saw you writing that. Yeah.
The reason I wanted us to lose is because
I never replied to your email.
I was adamant that if West Indies didn't qualify for the World Cup, changes would have happened sooner. So by getting to the World Cup, it papered over cracks. We then had to go to the World Cup and suck, like anybody who had been watching West Indies should have known. Santoki and I were laughing about it the other day. We got to the World Cup and everyone was talking up our chances, even though we hadn't won any ODI series for 4 years. So I was actually hoping that we wouldn't qualify to the World Cup because then it would have brought about so Pollard becoming ODI captain would have happened a lot earlier. People turning on Cameron and wanting him out as Cricket West Indies president, that the groundswell would have started a lot quicker and a lot earlier. So I was actually super disappointed we made it to the World Cup because we then went to the World Cup and sucked. as predicted.
I think Mash, as you wrote in the Cricketer today, if anyone hasn't seen it already, check out Mash's article. The perception of the West Indies and the reality, there's such a stark difference. I mean, West Indies were bigged up at the World Cup partly as 2-time World Cup winners, but that was 1979 and 1983. So the actual perception of the glory days of West Indies still has an effect on the current team, which is crazy considering it's been nearly 40 years since those glory days. And I think that's kind of why there's a false narrative of what West Indies can achieve compared to the actual realistic aspect of them on the ground.
Yeah. I always just look at the West Indies team now. Who would get into, forget the top three, of the West Indies side? This is a good way of looking at it. Of the current West Indies side, other than Holder, who gets in New Zealand's team?
And on that note, we'll see you tomorrow, guys.
So that sums it up. And if the genuine answer is that we're like, I'm not even sure if it's anyone else other than Holder, then why are we drawing a similarity between New Zealand and West Indies? If we can't even say that there's a parity, any kind of parity between the two teams, they wouldn't take any of our batsmen, not even Darren Bravo.
No, you're right. Actually.
That's why I wrote that. That's why I wrote that piece a couple of weeks ago. That the last 4 Test series the Windies have played: India, England, Afghanistan, and New Zealand. Like how are you going to be able to develop your red ball game when you're playing teams that are just resources way out your league, or teams that you're expected to beat? I want to see more series against Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, South Africa, Pakistan. That's what we need. And keep continuing the quality of the first class tournament.
You know what? I was really disappointed because obviously South Africa were meant to tour West Indies in the summer, but for the COVID, that would have been a really good series. Obviously, South Africa at the moment's in transition. There's a lot of politics going on. The teams are slightly in disarray, but they're still a good side. But I think they're an equal match of West Indies, and playing them in the West Indies would have been a really good contest, and it would have been a more reflective indicator of where we are in red ball game rather than these matches against England and New Zealand, which, as you both have said, are essentially appearances to see if players can develop, but we're never going to get a series win in these countries just because the resources, the gap is too big.
Yeah,
I think that's it. We don't actually know how good this team is.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
so hard to. I mean, where's the benchmark for them?
That's actually that's valid. Yeah, totally valid.
So it looks like from Kartikeya, the 18 match is starting slightly later than the Test match. So we might see that scorecards coming in about an hour's time. So it's been good. We don't want to act too pessimistic. So Mashel, end us on a positive note, please.
It's raining. Okay, positive note. God, positive note. No, do you know what? This side can compete with sides better than them, and I expect over the course of the two. I'm not expecting us to get trounced in the two matches. I'm not saying it's going to be close, but we can compete for longer than one session. So I think this is just jumping off the back of Dave's point that this is just about there's only so much progression you can learn about your side when you're playing a team that basically is better than you away from home. So all they can do, similar to England, is maybe win a test. Or if they can't do that, put themselves in a position where it was like, shit, they could have actually won that test. Yeah. And that's the only level of progression I think you can genuinely see with this side, given our resources versus someone like New Zealand. And if that South Africa series can be rearranged, in fact, I've been told that South Africa will be touring early next year or in the summer next year. That's when I think as both of you have said, that's when I think we have to realistically say you have to win this series to show that you can come now into the middle tier of test sides. But my last thing is, no matter what happens to West Indies in these 2 test matches, everyone needs to remember that New Zealand destroyed India in New Zealand. So if you accept that, why would you think that West Indies can do better?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point to end on. So thank you everyone for joining us. We've really enjoyed your comments as usual. Keep them coming. I'm sure if we get some play today, tomorrow will be fun fueled, regardless of what happens. David, pleasure to actually meet you virtually.
Yeah, you too, guys. Thanks for that. Enjoyed that.
You've been a great guest. Hopefully you'll join us again soon. You've been a great guest. And yeah, Michelle, no emails at 6 a.m, please.
Yeah, what? yeah. Last thing though, just for anyone who's still with us. So the plan is that the Rum Shop Diary. So we're going to do every day of the test match, 9 o'clock every day. But it's now, today was just a free for all, because normally we don't do it until we reflect on the day's play. But the one starting from tomorrow for the next 5 days will be on Patreon only. So if you have signed up, well, good for you. Because that's where you're going to be able to find the Rum Shot Diaries. It will be private, and that's for those who've just signed up to that particular membership level of Patreon. I don't know yet if we'll ever make them available, and we may still do some free for all ones just for, you know, people in general. But like I say, we said it at the top, so we'll say it at the end: www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket. If you can get involved and you can support, jump on. It's not just myself and Santoki, it's people like Dave who are all trying to, you know, push the Caribbean cricket narrative and just get stories out there that are everything other than weren't we good in the 1980s. So we'd love your support. Jump on Patreon and we'll see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock reflecting on the first day's play. Santoki, anything else?
No. I'm looking forward to catching up with everyone tomorrow, and hopefully West Indies are in a good position.
Excellent. So that's goodbye from us. That's goodbye from me. Goodbye from Santoki, and goodbye from Dave. And we'll catch you tomorrow. We'll catch you on Twitter right now when things happen, maybe, but we'll catch you tomorrow. Get involved on Twitter as well, obviously, at us and whatnot. And we'll catch you tomorrow for day 1 review. Cheers, everyone.